All right, just gonna make a couple more here for y'all tonight. All right, we're on episode 4, Grey's Anatomy. This one seems like just a tad bit longer than usual. We're really getting into these characters and their lives together now. All right, so a big theme of the episode here is that George is very sensitive about living with all girls. He feels kind of like emasculated, kind of like they're treating him like he's like a sister, like he's not a man. So it's his turn to go grocery shopping, I guess. They take turns. He doesn't want to buy tampons. So Izzy and Meredith, they're kind of like, come on, George, it's just tampons. Um, and then he also has this issue because although he likes the view of, Izzy walking around half naked all the time, like she be in like a little shirt and her panties and stuff, which is cool because I'd be walking around like that too, honey. But he's kind of like, back to the whole seeing me as a sister thing and not a man. Like, you're comfortable walking around me because, I'm a safe person. Like, I'm not going to try anything with you or and nothing like that. And so he tells Alex like that, like about it. And Alex kind of makes fun of him for it. And so he feels even more kind of emasculated because of it. So anyways, then here we are. We talked about how Izzy was a model because that helped her pay for medical school. So she actually has her medical school all the way paid off. She's not going to come out of it with, $200,000 or more in debt. And so, I'm sorry, I had to pause it. My kids was being hella loud. Okay, so yes, she did a photo shoot the year prior for this magazine. It's called Bethany Whisper. It's like a lingerie magazine or some shit, right? So she posed for it. Basically her Izzy ends up having a patient who has seen this photo shoot and has fantasized about her. And so when she walks into the room to, examine him, he's like, I want a different doctor. Is that you? You're not a doctor. And so it takes until further on in the episode for him to explain to her that he would be feeling emasculated because that's basically what they were doing to him. They were basically I forget what the procedure was. Something about he had cancer, like, oh geez, I don't know where, like down in his privates, right? And so yeah, so that's what happened. And so he basically, when he was gonna go into surgery, he would be like legs up in the air, like all his junk hanging out. And he's like, I don't want you to see me like that because I've been sitting here like literally fantasizing about you for however long, right? So she tries to explain this to Dr. Bailey when she finds out like why, it's such a big deal for him to have a different doctor, for her not to like be in the room, while it's going on. So she respects his wishes. She convinces Bailey to try and keep some of the nerves down there so that that he's not really emasculated all the way, and so he can still have some feeling down there. And so then she has to convince the other surgeon who's going to be working on him, because they call him Limp Harry or something like that, because he never gives a fuck, I guess, about anybody's nerves down there. And he's just like, whatever, like, we're doing this procedure. They don't have to feel anything after this. It's fine. Well, it wasn't fine. And so basically they were able to save the nerves. And so he was good. Also, because of this photo shoot, Alex finds out. Okay. And like I said, Alex is a jerk, season 1. Okay. He goes and copies all of these like prints. He goes to the copy machine, puts the freaking picture of her on there, then hangs up all of these pictures all over the locker room like an a-hole. And so basically, Izzy tells him off. And she starts stripping down, and she was like, "Oh my God, like, I can't believe it. We've never seen any body parts, right? Like, it's so crazy that you're really gonna, like, sit here and try to make fun of me for doing a photo shoot." And that's when we find out, like, yeah, I did sit there and model, and I took night classes at the community college for 7 years. So she is a little bit older than the other interns because it took her longer to finish college because she was paying for it herself. Like, she was working and she was taking night classes and she was modeling and all of these things. And so that's that. So she was like, "I'm not going to be like you, and I'm not going to have all this debt, honey. My debt is clean. Like, it's cleared. Okay? Ain't no debt for me. You want to sit here and make fun of me for being a damn model? You can do that all day long, but just know that I'm good. Okay? I am good." Okay, moving on from Izzy and all her little drama there. Derek tries to get to know Meredith more. Let's see. So they end up getting a patient with nails in their head. Okay, so the guy accidentally nailed himself in the head with a nail gun while he was working on something in the garage. He has this beautiful Latina wife. Her favorite color is red. Hello, it's my favorite color too, and I'm also Latina. And so she always wears these real nice red dresses. He said he used to hate the color, but he loves her so much. And anyways, so here's the deal with his surgery. I guess if they don't do the surgery, because they were able to take the nails out no problem, right? Then they find that there's something else wrong, that there is a tumor in a certain part of the brain where if they do the surgery, he might lose his memory. And because it's in the part of the brain where your memory is. So to even get in there, he would have had to take a big chunk out of this brain. And so in that area where the tumor was, it is the memory. So yeah, you can still function, but he's not going to have a lot of memory of his life so far, right? So they're saying with the surgery, you're still only going to have about 10 more years, right? You're going to have about 10 more years. They're not going to be good ones. And so if they leave the tumor in, he gets half the time with his memory. So it's going to be 5 years, about 5 years of, okay, like, yeah, we gonna have some more good times in these 5 years, but it's not enough time. And really neither is enough time. When you love somebody and you done found someone you want to spend the rest of your life with, giving you a deadline, like a life and death deadline, saying, yeah, you're gonna have about 10 more years because of this. That's just awful. It's just awful when people get these diagnoses. And so they choose to do the surgery. Meredith is feeling very emotional during this whole situation because of her situation with her mom, because they didn't talk for a while. What happened? Okay, so right before she was diagnosed with the Alzheimer's, I guess Meredith was about to go to Europe. And when she was gonna leave for Europe, her and her mom got into it really bad about medical school and all of that, right? Because I think Ellis didn't want her to go to medical school. She didn't want her to be a surgeon. She wanted her to have like a life and be great and be brilliant and extraordinary, right? We'll hear that a lot in the show. But so Meredith does go to Europe, and sometimes because of the Alzheimer's, well, she had a very lucid moment in a further episode, and so she thinks it's only been a couple months. Meredith's like, no, it's been 5 years, like, since that happened. And so, anyways, I won't spoil it for when we get to that part, but yes, so she's trying to tell the wife, hey, you know, why don't you, maybe you shouldn't get the surgery because you don't know what it's like when a loved one is actually going through these things, and you have to be the one to, you know, pick up the slack, and you have to do all this, and you don't know what it's gonna be like. It's exhausting for the caregiver. And so she's like, girl, if he wants 10 years, then I will give him 10 years because I will give him whatever he wants. Okay? And so Derek has to kind of pull them apart and give her a talking to. And so anyways, they go on with the surgery. And let's see. Towards the end of the episode, Meredith and Derek finally go on their first date. So that's going to start expanding now that we are here. Let's see. I had some more notes. I'm sorry. Christina. Okay, her patient for this episode is Nurse Fallon. So Nurse Fallon, she is having, well, they tell Christina that she's there to get a Whipple, which is a general surgery. She used to work there, so like all the other nurses know her, all the attendings know her. You know, decades of her life was spent there working, but now she's really sick. So what Christina doesn't know at first is that she's really there to teach her a lesson. Okay, so she's there to teach her a lesson and to basically die, you know. We also find out she was a scrub nurse for Ellis Gray for about 18 years. Also didn't get to ever meet Meredith, which was crazy for me, but she goes on to say that Ellis wasn't that type of person. Ellis was always very cold. She was always very professional, very about business, not trying to get into any personal or any type of emotions or anything like that. And basically she finds out, and she does end up talking to Meredith about it, where she ends up being the first person that Meredith tells about Ellis having Alzheimer's, right? And so they kind of bond over that. She becomes a very important patient for Meredith and Christina, right? And then speaking of Christina, she and Burke start getting real close, and they almost kiss in the stairwell this episode. So that's all exciting. Everybody's all nice and flirty, and we're getting along very well here. So I think episode 5 is actually a little more exciting. So we're going to cover that in this next video. I got 2 more for tonight, and then I think I'm done. I'm tired. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys. See you on the next one.